Welcome to Egads, English Goes Awesome with Drama and Series. Today we'll learn English through an exciting movie recap. This video already has English subtitles, so for easier understanding, simply use the auto-translate option in the settings menu at the bottom of the video to choose your language. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. We love hearing from you. Now, let's begin. We begin this story with a terrifying scene. Although only one of those present perceives it, in the middle of a restaurant, we meet Odd, our protagonist, who can clearly see a strange demonic creature moving among the diners, hovering just inches away from them, despite the clarity of its form. Odd must pretend not to see the demon, because if it discovers him, he could become its next prey, since that is precisely the demon's mission. To seek out a soul from which to feed in the demonic realm. The soul of someone who can see them is a true delicacy. Since childhood, Odd has possessed the extraordinary ability to perceive the supernatural. He is not only capable of seeing the dead, but also malevolent entities that go unnoticed by others. However, one day he witnessed what was done to another person who could see demons. And since then, he has kept a low profile. Now he works as a chef in a mediocre restaurant, which, although it is the best he could get, reflects his inner turmoil from all that he has witnessed. Still, this peculiar behavior turns out to be attractive to Stormy, his girlfriend, who at this moment is being stalked by the demon that is slowly savoring her. When the creature pounces on Stormy, Odd shouts to distract it. In that instant, a disheveled-looking man enters the restaurant. The demon lunges toward him as swarms of flies are attracted to dung. Oh, another name for Odd, as the narrative seems to shift perspectives, has never witnessed anything like that. Robert, the strange and mellowest subject, exits the restaurant surrounded by a dozen demons. This can only mean that something terrible is about to happen, and many will die. Viola, Odd's friend, notices that he looks more disturbed than usual and asks him what is happening. But Odd only asks her for some rest and quickly leaves the restaurant to follow Robert. As Odd trails Robert through the mall, he passes by an ice cream shop. Seeing him, Stormy asks for a break and brings him a cone, believing that Odd has come to visit her there. Odd briefly explains his ominous feeling about the stranger. Although Stormy is reluctant to believe him, she asks for the reason for his unease. At that moment, a flashback reveals that Odd not only can see demons, but also can perceive the ghosts of those whose deaths remain unresolved, such as the ghost of Jenny, a little girl murdered by a criminal who enjoyed impunity for several months. Thanks to Odd, the criminal was arrested, allowing Jenny's spirit to cross over. Wyatt, the police chief, has always considered that Odd possesses a peculiar gift. But this daily endangers him, as Wyatt does not want him to end up dead in one of his investigations. Shortly after returning to the mall, Robert enters the ice cream shop and buys a large quantity of ice cream. Then he leaves, and the demons move away from him, entering a strange tunnel. Surprised, Odd knows he must follow Robert in his pursuit. He discovers a tavern in the middle of the desert. When Robert leaves, Odd enters to investigate the place. It could not be more eerie. It is filled with decomposing food and an overwhelming sense of mortal cold. Guided by his instinct, he explores every room, and upon opening a door, a portal to hell appears before him. Knowing that his life is at stake, Odd runs and manages to hide just in time. Through a small crack, he observes hundreds of demons emerging from the portal, led by a towering demon he has never seen before. After the demons depart, Odd searches the cabin and discovers that Robert is a kind of puppet in the service of the demons. They have forced him to commit atrocious acts, including dozens of murders. Upon hearing that Robert has returned, Odd decides to flee and heads to see Wyatt. Although he has no concrete evidence, Wyatt decides to trust him and sends an officer to investigate the cabin that afternoon. Later, Stormy surprises O with a picnic at the church's overlook. However, While they enjoy the sunset, O notices the furious approach of Robert toward them. He tries to escape, but when they descend from the overlook, darkness takes over the church and they can hear claws scratching at the walls. They hide quickly, anxious about what might happen next. As Oth searches for a way out, Robert attacks Stormy and nearly ends her life. However, Odd manages to get her out through a back door and both escape on a scooter. While driving, Odd calls Wyatt and asks for help, explaining that Robert tried to kill them and that he needs officers to be sent immediately. Unfortunately, by the time the officers arrive, the church has been completely destroyed, leaving no trace of what happened. Later, one of the officers named Byrne finds Odd and asks him several confused questions. He shows Odd a photo of Robert, asking him to confirm his identity. After Odd explains what happened again, Byrne lets him go, because he receives an emergency call reporting that a girl has been brutally murdered in the forest. Most alarmingly, she was the police chief Wyatt's girlfriend, making this case personal for him. The only witness is a man in shock, so Wyatt orders the capture of Robert. Meanwhile, H returns home with Stormy by his side. She asks him to spend the night with her, even dressing seductively to convince him, but the voices in Odd's head distract him as he goes home. He is attacked by faceless men who subdue and carry him away. However, during the process, one of the bullets hits Odd, and suddenly, he wakes up in his bed, safe and sound. The alarm reminds him that he is running late for work, so he skips his shower and rushes to the mall that night. Odd then decides to follow the clues from his nightmare. The faceless men wore bowling uniforms, so he heads there. Upon arriving, he notices that the employees' uniforms are identical to those of the attackers from his dream. A dream that Viola also had regarding her family who share a similar gift that she has never mentioned for fear of rejection. In Viola's vision, she saw a carousel surrounded by hundreds of corpses, indicating that a tragedy is approaching, and it is her duty to prevent it. Suddenly, a noise is heard when Viola goes to check on her children to make sure they are safe. Odd observes that several demons are surrounding the little ones. If they do not act quickly, it all seems to indicate that the children of his friends are victims of this threat. That night, when Odd returns home, he finds the door open and a gun on the floor. In search of protection, he picks up the pistol and heads to the bathroom, where he finds Robert's body in the bathtub, struck by 2 shots in the back. The murder weapon bears his fingerprints, which indicates that someone is trying to frame him. Now Odd must dispose of the body before the police discover it. After hiding the body in an abandoned prison far from the city, he returns to inform Wyatt about what he has discovered. However, upon entering his neighborhood, he finds himself surrounded by demons terrorizing the streets. Shortly afterward, he reaches Wyatt's house, where multiple patrols and emergency services have gathered. Someone has murdered the captain. Just a few minutes ago, someone knocked on the door and upon opening it, received a burst of gunfire. A minute later, Wyatt's wife comes out and embraces Odd with affection, then shows him the protective amulet that the young man had given her husband when they first met. This amulet not only deflected the bullets that should have pierced Wyatt's heart, but also redirected the bullets that entered his body. The next day, the number of demons in the streets multiplies. Odd decides to take action and heads to Robert's house, where he confronts horrible visions, human fingers, teeth, and body parts. But the most disturbing discovery is on his computer. Dozens of tutorials on how to make bombs large enough to destroy an entire city. Suddenly, Robert's ghost appears and attacks Odd. Although Odd knows he cannot be touched because he is dead, he is surprised to see that Robert can manipulate objects with force, even hurling the refrigerator at him. Luckily, Odd manages to get away in time, but the evidence is burned. Only the bullets from Robert's body remain. As he prepares to recover them, he notices a tattoo that he has seen before on Byrne's arm. Now he knows that they were partners, and that Byrne is the one who will cause the massacre that will destroy the town. Quickly, Odd takes his car and heads to the town. First, he goes with Stormy and is fortunate to see Byrne's car parked in front of the mall, which confirms that both are in the same place, saving him time, but reminding him that his girlfriend is in danger if he does not stop Byrne. Using Stormy's access card, he enters the surveillance corridors and grabs a baseball bat. He then heads to the control room, where he finds dead officers and a masked individual watching the area. With a slight noise, Odd distracts him and surprises him with a devastating blow to the face. However, the person is not Byrne, but a police officer who is helping him, leaving Odd even more confused about how many allies he truly has left. Odd then heads to the mall, which is overcrowded due to Black Friday, the day with the most offers of the year. From afar, he sees Viola and shouts for her to get away immediately. She doesn't need to understand the situation. She only must trust him and leave with her children as quickly as possible. However, just as Odd begins to warn the people to leave, a portal opens in the ceiling and thousands of demons pour out, hungry for the upcoming feast. Odd maintains his composure, but Viola's scream at the sight of the demons causes a mass panic and everyone flees for their lives. Suddenly, gunshots echo through the plaza where Stormy is working. Odd runs at full speed to save her, but he finds himself face to face with Ben, who is wielding an automatic rifle and firing at everyone, even emptying his weapon at the ice cream stand. Odd responds by shooting with the pistol he took from the man he knocked out, but his aim is poor and he fails to hit a vital spot. Moreover, the demons protect Byrne. In a moment of extreme tension, Byrne begins reloading his rifle, while Odd, trapped by the demons, only has a chance for one shot. However, the feeling of relief is fleeting, for Stormy's shop has been completely destroyed. Suddenly, his beautiful girlfriend appears behind the counter, but a scream interrupts their moment as the attack is not over yet. Upon examining the man whom Odd just killed, he realizes that it is not Byrne. Following the trail of the demons, he reaches the parking lot, where he finds an unattended delivery truck. Upon opening the doors, he discovers it is loaded with explosives enough to blow up the entire mall. At that moment, the leader of the demons flies toward Byrne, possessing him so that he returns and finishes off Odd, either under attack or by receiving a shot in the shoulder. However, Byrne manages to steal the truck and drive away from the mall. The problem is he only has 2 minutes to reach a safe location where the explosion will cause the least damage possible. Byrne clings to the truck, trying to finish off Odd, and a bullet grazes his skull in an impressive scene. With only 16 seconds left until the end, Odd steers the truck toward the sewer drain and jumps, sending Byrne along with the demon leader to a safe destination. Odd wakes up in the hospital, hailed as a hero by the city. Everyone knows what he has done, and Stormy waits for him to give him a sweet kiss. A few days later, Odd is discharged and he goes home with Stormy. Together, they enjoy amazing days, indulging in intimacy and living moments of happiness, loving every moment. However, Watt appears at his door and warns him that he cannot continue like this, that it is unhealthy for both of them. At that moment, Odd feels a tightening in his heart as he sees Stormy in a corner, wearing her uniform stained with blood and covered in bullet holes. She never survived the attack. His mind refuses to accept the reality, for his love for her is so deep that he cannot perceive the truth. With one final kiss, he bids farewell to his great love, while Stormy heads to the window and transforms into hundreds of butterflies scattered throughout the garden.